welcome to a new Quran study today. And God will we're gonna read from Surah 5, verse 22. I seek refuge in God from Satan, the rejected. In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful. 5:22. O Moses, there are powerful people in it, and we will not enter it unless they get out of it. If they get out, we are entering. Um, so as we saw in the last Quran study, mashallah, God talked about the story of the children of Israel, and as we know, God had freed the children of Israel from slavery in Egypt, and He showed them many miracles. For example, He split the sea for them. Uh, he gave them food from the sky and protected them. And now he was sending them to enter the promised land, a blessed land that God had prepared for them. But we see in this verse when they got close, they heard that there's some strong people living there, and instead of trusting God and moving forward, they hesitated and became afraid. And this story, teaches us that real trust in God means, you know, taking the first step, knowing that God will support you. And if we always wait for things to feel safe or easy, we may miss great, opportunities that God has prepared for us. And this is a very good reminder, mashallah. The verse 23, two men who were reverent and blessed by God said, just enter the gate. If you just enter it, you will surely prevail. You must trust in God if you are believers. So here we see that there is two men who stood up, and um, as we know from this verse that there were people who were connected to God. They had, reverence in their hearts, and God has blessed them. And what did He say? They didn't say, for example, you need to fight harder, or you need more weapons. No, they just said, enter the gate. In other words, just take the first step. So they were, confident, not in their own strength, but in God's promise. And then they added something very important when they say you must trust in God if you are, if you truly believe. And this is very important things to learn. If we say we believe in God, it means we trust Him even when things look tough. For example, even when we were, scared, or when we don't see the full picture, because real belief isn't just words, it's trusting that God knows what we don't and that He can do what we can't. MashaAllah. 24, they said, O Moses, we will never enter it so long as they are in it. Therefore, go, you and your Lord, and fight. We are sitting right here. Oh, wow. So can you believe this? After everything they saw, so many signs, so many miracles, they still refused, you know. and not just refuse politely. We see here in this verse, they said something that, almost sounds disrespectful. When they say, "You and your Lord go fight, we will stay right here." It's very bad. And so they had no trust, no courage, no sense of responsibility. And it's like saying, this is not our problem. You deal with it, we don't care. And and this shows, something deep, that even when people see clear signs, if their hearts are full of fear and doubt, miracles will not be enough. As we see this example of children of Israel. 25. He said, "My Lord, I can only control myself and my brother, so allow us to part company with the wicked people." So we see here that Moses didn't argue, he just turned to God. He knew, you know, that you can't force people to believe. So you can only choose to, your own path, and sometimes you have to walk away from, those who refuse to follow. 26. He said, "Henceforth it is forbidden them for 40 years, during which they will roam the earth aimlessly. Do not grieve over such wicked people." So any action, as we know, there is a consequences, right? Um, we see here that because they refused to trust, you know, uh, the opportunity was taken away, and now they will now live just, without um, without any hope, just lost. It's like in circles, lost, completely lost. So God tells Moses, "Don't be sad for them." For example, sometimes people need to face the consequences to learn, even if it's, um, hard to watch, but it's part of their journey. They had to learn in very hard way, you know. Um, yeah. So moving to the next verse, the first murder, 27. Recite for them the true history of Adam's two sons. They made an offering, and it was accepted from one of them, but not from the other. He said, "I will surely kill you." He said, "God accepts only from the righteous." And the footnote says here, the names of the two sons involved in this first murder are not relevant, relevant, but they are given in the Bible as Abel and Cain. Genesis 4, 2, 9. Okay. So, mashallah, here God, is talking about a real story that happened, um, you know, um, a long time ago. So people give in that period, people give offerings, to get closer to God. So it wasn't about money. It could be anything valuable. For example, food, animals, crops, whatever they had, right? So, but the key wasn't the thing itself, it was the heart behind it, The purpose is to to get closer to God. That that's what it means offering. So one brother gave, with sincerity. He wanted to please God, so he gave, the best he had. And the other hand, the other one didn't. Maybe, he gave um, carelessly, or just to show off, or because, he had to do it, not because he truly wanted, um, you know. So God accepted the one that, came with humility and pure attention, because God knows our true intentions. And that made, the other brother angry. But instead of looking at himself and asking why wasn't, mine accepted, he blamed his brother. So that's when, the jealousy, turned into hate, and hate turned into the first murder, you know. And we see that the first murder came from jealousy, basically. And next verse says, if you extend your hand to kill me, I'm not extending my hand to kill you, for I reverence God, Lord of the universe. I want you, not me, to bear my sin and your sin. Then you end up with the dwellers of hell. Such is the requital for the transgressors. His ego provoked him into killing his brother. He killed him and ended up with the losers. So, so the brother, we see here that he replies with peace when he says, even if you are trying to kill me, I will not fight back. And why? Not because he is weak, of course, but because he fears God. He chooses faith over revenge, and he didn't want, to let anger makes him do wrong things. That's the makes God angry. And the other brother, his ego, his pride, his jealousy, his anger, pushes him to do, the unexpected thing. So he killed his own brother. And God says, instead of winning, he lost everything. We see that when God mentioned, he ended up with the losers. Because when you let your ego take over, you lose your soul. And, when you lose your soul, you lose everything. Because we just have our souls, actually, that gonna last, for eternity. So that's the real loss. And the next verse, um, God then sent a raven to scratch the soul, to teach him how to bury his brother's corpse. He said, "Woe to me, I fail to be as intelligent as this raven, and bury my brother's corpse." He became ridden with remorse. So after the murder, which is the first, murder ever, right? So he didn't know what to do, with the body, and God, sent a raven to dig the ground and show him how to bury his brother. So because it was the first murder, he had no experience or knowledge about handling such a situation like this. And seeing the bird act naturally and wisely, inspired of course by God, made him realize, how lost he was, and when he said, even this bird is smarter than me, you know. Um, right. Um, because of this, we decreed for the children of Israel that anyone who murders any person who had not committed murder or horrendous crimes, it should be as if he murdered all the people. And anyone who spares a life, it should be as if he spares the lives of all the people. Our messengers went to them with clear proofs and revelations, but most of them, after all this, are still transgressing. MashaAllah. So this verse, shows how serious murder is in God's eyes. So killing an innocent person is like killing all the people, all humanity. Imagine, and it's really heavy. And saving a life is as if you save everyone like that. So this is a powerful reminder that life is sacred and no one has, the right to take it without justice, you know. And even after God sent clear messages, so many people still uh, choose to cross the line, just like, the first one who killed his brother. We see that every day, unfortunately. And wait, exempted are those who repent before you overcome them. You should know that God is forgiver, most merciful. So it's very good reminder that God's door is always open as long as the person sincerely regrets and tries to change. So this shows that God is forgiver, He's merciful, and we should never, forget that no matter, how big the mistake is, we need just to be sincere repenters. 35. All you who believe, you should reverence God and seek the ways and means to Him, and strive in His cause that you may succeed. Um, right. So we notice here when God says seek the ways and means to Him, you know, it means don't just believe, actively look for ways to grow closer to Him. You know, that can be, through acts of worship like prayer, fasting, and reading the Quran with understanding, etc. There is a lot of ways, but it also includes your everyday actions like, being kind to yourself, to others, forgiving people, learning useful knowledge, for example, or using your time, skills, money to strive to please God. You know, it can be big actions and even small things too. Like for example, helping your parents, feeding animals, or um, stopping yourself from a sin, for example. All this can be steps towards God when we do it with right heart, with sincerity. Um, so that shows that, the path of God isn't just one way. It's any sincere effort, that we make for His sake, you know, in very multiple ways. Thank God. The cost of disbelief. Certainly, it also disbelieved if they possessed everything on earth, even twice as much, and offered it as ransom to spare them the retribution on the day of resurrection, it would not be accepted from them. They have incurred a painful retribution. So here we move now to another subject, talking about disbelievers. Um, we see from the verse that uh, God, He doesn't want money or state use. It's our submission to Him alone, our sincerity and a clean heart devoted to Him alone. That's what God wants. And the disbelief has a cost. And this verse reminds us that ignoring the truth in this life, leads to real loss in the hereafter. We should be um, uh, careful. They will want to exit hell, but as they can never exit therefrom, their retribution is eternal. So this is very clear. So those who rejected the truth will want to escape hell, as we see in this verse, but they will never be able to, because the punishment is eternal. And as we know from some traditional Muslims, they believe in hadiths that contradict this verse clearly, thinking that, even if someone end up, in hell, they will eventually get out just because they were, part of the Muslim community. And that's not true. It's a blasphemy. And the Quran doesn't support that. It's very clear here. God says here they can never exit. You know. 38. Mathematical proof supports Quranic justice. The thief, male or female, should mark their hands as a punishment for their crime and to serve as an example from God. God is Almighty, most wise. And the footnotes here says the practice of cutting off the thief's hand, as decreed by the false Muslims, is a satanic practice without Quranic basis. Due to the special importance of this example, God has provided mathematical proof in support of marking the hand of the thief, rather than serving it. No, severing it. Sorry, rather than severing it. Verse 12:31 refers to the woman who so admired Joseph that they cut their hands. Obviously, they did not cut off their hands. Nobody can. The sum of surah and first numbers are the same for 5:38 and 12:31. 43. It's also the will and mercy of God that this mathematical relationship confirms with the Quran's 19 base code. 19 verses after 12:31, we see the same word, 12:50. MashaAllah. So, so here God is talking about something very important. It's about punishment of the thief. But here it's very important to understand it correctly. It says to mark the thief's hands, not to cut it off. And traditional, practices that cut off hands are not supported by the Quran. And mashallah, God is Almighty and most wise. You know, um, punishments are, you know, meant to be just and merciful, not cruel, you know. So that justice is not about throwing people in prison and forgiving them. No, it's about correcting the wrong and protecting the community. So, for example, when someone steals, the goal is not just to punish, but to make them take responsibility. And marking the hand back then was a public sign of guilt, right? And today it could be like having a criminal record, a way for people to know, that that person did something wrong, so they feel shame for a while, but they should also be given the chance to repay what they stole, work for it, and earn back, trust, right? So a prison doesn't help the victim, but having the thief, repay and face the public shame and reform, that's the justice, that's from God's mercy and wisdom, mashallah. 41. O you messenger, do not be saddened by those who hasten to disbelieve among those who say we believe with their mouths, why their hearts do not believe. Among the Jews, some listen to lies. They listen to people who never met you and who distort the words out of context. Then say, if you are given this, accept it. But if you are given anything different, beware. Whomever God wills to divert, you can do nothing to help him against God. God does not wish to cleanse their hearts. They have incurred humiliation in this world, and in the hereafter they will suffer a terrible retribution. So, so we see here, sorry, in this verse when God says they stored the words out of context. What does it mean? It means, that they change the original message, to fit their own beliefs or agenda. And as we know, this includes fabricating Mishnah used by, some Jewish communities. And the Mishnah contains interpretations and laws, written after the original scripture that was, made up later to support certain doctrine. Like exactly like Hadith, for traditional Muslims. Exactly. So these false, you know, um, lies or additions twist the true message, you know, and confuse people, leading them, away from the original teachings. So when the verse says, if you are given this, accept it, but if you are given anything different, beware, it refers to how some people told others to only accept, the part of the message that they liked and to reject anything that didn't fit their own, views or credentials or whatever. So, so in other words, they created a rule which is only accept what agrees with us and be careful or suspicious of anything else. And that attitude, blocks obviously the truth, understanding, and closes the door, to the full original message. So this verse is a warning, for us against, picking on choosing beliefs based on personal or group, preferences instead of accepting the whole truth from God. Inshallah. The last verse, 42. They are upholders of lies and eaters of illicit earnings. If they come to you to judge among them, you may judge among them, or you may disregard them. If you choose to disregard them, they cannot harm you in the least. But if you judge among them, you should judge equitably. God loves those who are equitable. MashaAllah. So here God is talking about the people, you know, some of them were from the Jewish community at the time of the Prophet Muhammad. So they had their own religious laws, the Torah and their fabrication and stuff, their own religion. But they didn't always, want to follow it, especially when, the ruling was harsh or didn't, favor them. So what did they do? They went to the Prophet, hoping, he would give them a lighter or different judgment, something that can fit their desires. It's like, uh, someone goes to um, multiple judges or leaders, just to find one who says what they want to hear. Exactly like that. And God knows, He knew their intentions. That's why He told the Prophet, you can't choose to judge them or you can ignore them. If you ignore them, they can't harm you. So, and if you do judge, then you must judge fairly, based on their wishes. So, we see that they came to the Prophet not because they believe in him, but because they were trying to use him to get a favorable decision. That's why, the verse also says they were upholders of lies and takers of illicit gains because they weren't, sincere seekers of the truth. Um, so this is lesson, and stories that God, tells us to learn from it and not trying to not to repeat the same mistakes that those people did. And it's a blessing from God that we have the Quran, the verses to study it and learn from it. And may God help us to, stay guided. And inshallah, thank you for everything and for listening. And if you have any comments or questions, feel free. Thank you.
MashaAllah, thank you. Great study.
MashaAllah, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody has any comments or questions? Yeah, we read from Surah 45, Surah 5, verse 22. Yeah, so mashallah, a good example and great reminder about trusting in God. And we can see, I mean, what a big price these people had to pay just for not trusting in God and not reverencing God and saying what they said on top of it, right? But obviously, the reminder here was, the two reverent men who were there, and they were blessed by God. They said, just enter the gate, and if you enter, you will prevail. So I mean, almost like the trust level was so small that, like, even though when they were told that, no, just go there, you'll be fine. Like, it's not even saying that trust in God, maybe you will be fine. They're saying, no, trust in God, you will be fine. You will prevail. Surely prevail. If you just enter it, just put your foot in the door, And and the thing is, like, we're being told here, you must trust in God, So trusting in God is not an option, like it's a requirement, for being a believer. It says you must trust in God if you are believers, So it's a reminder for us in every situation we're in. I mean, no matter how tough it is, that our only recourse is to trust in God. The only choice, the only option we have is to trust in God, and we will see that God will give us many blessings, just for the fact that you have that trust in God. I mean, you will be victorious in life. So that's a very strong reminder for all of us. MashaAllah.
MashaAllah. MashaAllah, brother. Yeah, and like you said, like if you do that, you trust in God, you'll be victorious, you'll be happy because um you will know, that God is doing everything and like that's the best way to be, like nothing will bother you, it's just so important. Um it's so important, and we know like trusting in God brings you the best feeling, and maybe we can't explain like the feeling like we want to, but it's just subhanallah, it's just the best feeling,
Mhm. The best feeling.
Yes,
Yeah, mashallah.
mashallah.
I have the best feelings.
Yeah, you do, brother. Inshallah. Subhanallah. Inshallah, we all do.
Hmm. Mashallah. Also, I mean, this the I mean, think about the grossness of murder and how it says, we said specifically for the children of Israel. We said the children of Israel. I mean, why does it mention the children of Israel specifically here? And why we see that, children of Israel are the ones who have been scheming for such a long time and killing people, left and right. I mean, not that the Muslims haven't been doing it either. I mean, everybody's been doing it, right? But we see how prevalent it is in today's society, today's world. I mean, we have a world that is like, driven by money and, which is driven by wars, which, involves killing people a lot, right? And we see hundreds and hundreds of people dying, around us every day as a result of these wars. I mean, nevertheless, this is because these people are in Satan's domain and this world is Satan's domain. But we can see like how evil people are, that they don't think twice before, committing so much injustice and harm upon other human beings for their own like selfish reasons, whether it's jealousy or getting money and becoming rich and being powerful. But God is telling us how gross this is. I mean, how people just don't think twice before murdering other people. Think that life is just a game. You can just take anybody's life, if they get in your way. And we see every day, also not just that, but like people individually, like people, killing their own blood and killing people around them, their own kind or other kinds of people, for silly reasons, petty reasons. And God tells us that this is, gross. Yet people, and this is clearly being said in the Quran, first of all, right? And for then also another part of it is that we see, for example, people who like to, you know, say bad things about the Quran, say that the Quran advocates violence and killing people and stuff like that, and like suicide bombing and whatnot, But we can clearly see that this is what the Quran says, if you kill one person, it's like killing all humanity. So it's pretty significant. Like, and I think at the same time, I mean, this is something of an encouragement for people, if anything, that Quran is encouraging people to save lives, to save other people, to do things that can help people to save lives rather than the other way around, MashaAllah.
Mashallah, brother. Yeah, and like the whole Quran, as a whole, it's against transgression,
Hmm.
Like it tells you can only transgress against those like as self-defense, But it
Hmm.
even says like so if you do that and then the person stops, it even says you have to stop.
Hmm.
You can't continue like he
Hmm.
transgresses you, then you protect yourself. He stops, you have to leave him alone.
Hmm.
It's like um subhanallah, it's
Exactly.
very precise.
Hmm.
And then like if you think about it, like how the people view these type of things, and then you see it in the Quranic view. It's like like the Quran is so much like better than like of course, like it's
Hmm.
revelation from God, but like imagine like people are trying to talk about Quran, but look at like how people base like the people's laws, like they even um like sometimes they even like make mistakes in their law and stuff like that. Like sometimes they even trial people, like they put people in jail and they don't deserve it and things like that. And like they even kill people, like they say, oh, this guy deserves to die because he did this. But if you think
Hmm.
about it, like the way the people, think um how people should be like, or if a person does this bad thing to you or transgresses to you, or you should do this. But if you read Quran, like you will see that um
Hmm.
like it doesn't make sense why someone would say like Quran stands for this, like maybe
Hmm.
like they haven't even studied the Quran, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just like hearsay and stuff. Because when you really study Quran, you see like how
Mm-hmm.
amazing it is, you know. Even when it comes to this, like when it comes to war and when it comes and being totally against, you know, like violence and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. Anybody else has any comments or questions? Yeah, I mean, God talks about capital punishment here and when it's justified. Yeah, so mashallah, I mean, we have all of these things that in the Quran we have all of these laws, right, for every single thing, which shows to us how detailed the Quran is. So for people to think that the Quran can have certain things and not have other things, while still saying that they believe in the Quran, shows that these people do not believe in the completeness of the Quran. Like, everything that we are ever going to face that is relevant to our salvation and life in this world, is mentioned here in this book. And we can see all the detailed laws for murder, for theft, for all of these things are, also included in this book. So people cannot like make up their own laws, the laws that we're supposed to keep. And so these basic things also shows to us that these basic things that God has instituted as laws, like a society that believes in God and should follow these guidelines too. When it comes to things like capital punishment and theft, etc. Right? And like Masha Huda shared, like You shared that uh, the court should, the justice should enforce justice by forcing these people to pay the things that, for example, they stole. So we see that they do actually, like, at least here in the U.S., like they they do have laws where they try to enforce some of these things, but it's not a perfect system, and there are many flaws in it, and people ultimately figure out ways, to cheat the system, and especially like with this, at least in the U.S., like with this uh, current regime, like we've seen that, there's people, like many stories, right? There's many stories where people stole millions, right? They steal a bunch of money. If you steal a small amount, obviously you'll go to jail and you won't have money to bail yourself out in whatever way. But if you steal a bunch, like a couple of $1 million, you can just pay like 1 million, and then the president will basically pardon you, and it's so funny because just stories just keep coming out. I was uh, I was watching this one story, I think just day before yesterday, where this one guy, he started his own business by creating this illegal website where people will just openly buy and sell all kinds of illegal items, all types of illegal items. Like they could sell drugs, weapons, illegal fake stuff, whatever you wanted, you could sell. And he made a couple $100 million for himself. And then he just got, in 2025, he just got pardoned, So, this obviously, even though, like, some of these people, they were told that they have to return the money, like a lot of times, people will not do it, but in fact, they will just use some of the money to get themselves out of the jails and then still be free, like nothing happened. And even when we talk about their records, they even pay those people to get their records expunged, like, and especially when someone's pardoned, for example, there is no record, they get a clean slate. Like, for example, um, people who did all these things, on January 6th in uh, the after the elections, they got all of their records cleared completely. So the system obviously needs to be just, and that's what God advocates, right? God advocates justice, and he advocates people being equitable, and but obviously, God, this also shows to us that the human beings are completely, defiant of God, and they have no regard for God or His system or what's fair, and just whoever thinks they can get away with whatever, they're seemingly getting away with it because they don't believe that they will be held accountable on the day of judgment, right? Because if they believe that way, then they would not even be getting involved in these things to begin with, right? Rather than, let alone trying to get out of the trouble that they put themselves in, But uh, I mean, all of these crimes, theft, murder, all these things, I mean, wouldn't happen in the first place if people follow God's commandments, I mean, we can see that all these things basically stem from just evil, one evil giving birth to another, um, and idol worship being the mother of all of these evils, and oftentimes the reason that people get into these things in the first place is based on their egos, based on whatever idols that they have, whether they worship money or whatever, power, and they get into these types of things, whether it's killing people or stealing money from others, etc.
MashaAllah, brother. Yeah, I mean, brother, in the US. You know, if you have money, you're even if you get in trouble, you do a crime, you have a high chance that you could get out, you know.
Yeah, especially now
Mm,
more than ever before, you know. I mean,
right, right.
it wasn't always like that. I mean, at
Hmm.
least not as open, you know, but now it's very easy now. Anybody like you need to you don't need to like you know, make a lot of effort to find someone who can do that, you know, like we all know like who to talk to and etc.
Right.
I must say, I must say that the thing I find most shocking even now is that, you know, the people who support these types of individuals, you know, are what kind of people support these types of people knowing that all these things exist, you know? I mean, like I came from a community where all the people, you know, religious people who call themselves, I mean, apparently submitters, who support all these types of people who are known to have all of these, you know, bad track records. And then, you know, some of at least one person even told me, they said, no, so what? Like that person did things in their personal life, you know, so we don't mind them. Like for example, running the country, you know, as long as they did these things in their personal life. But that shows obviously their person's character and their values. And of course, if we know now for sure, I hope these people learned their lesson. But it shows that, you know, someone can't apply that. I mean, if someone you're gonna uh, have someone like that as, you know, the person who is in charge of stuff, then obviously it's gonna lead to all of this chaos. They're gonna do the same things, but just they're just gonna do it on a larger scale. Um, yeah, you're gonna support them and make them even more stronger in whatever these corruption that they do. All right, did John go to sleep?
Brother John, maybe.
Okay. All right. So I guess does anyone else have any comments or questions?
I was just gonna like elaborate, but it's okay. Maybe we can't.
What?
I was just gonna like say some more like stuff like
Yeah,
what
yeah,
we were
sure,
saying.
sure.
Yeah, I was just like thinking, you know, like with everything that's going on, you know, and people that are behind this, it's like it actually exposes like that they are liars, you know, because they say all these things with their mouths, but the action
Mm-hmm.
speaks by themselves,
Mm-hmm.
you know. Like
Yeah.
how can people still like even believe, or think
Mm-hmm.
like there's something good there, you know. You
Mm-hmm.
see like them saying these things, like you should
Mm-hmm.
know that they're all lies because of what's happening, because of the actions and stuff.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, and
it makes no sense.
yeah, and it's because also because you know God says that one. He says the hypocrites are allies of one another. You know, and God
Mm,
says the disbelievers. The hypocrites side with the disbelievers. Because they say that because they think otherwise they'll get defeated.
mm-hmm,
So they'll try to ally with people who think that they are bigger in number and greater in power, who think they have the upper hand. So they'll go for that. Like if they thought that other people were in that position, they would join the other people too. But here they see people. There's some people that are less evil, and the other people they're more evil. They're like, oh yeah, we want to join the people that are more evil.
right.
Yeah, which I mean, obviously we don't want to. We don't think. I mean, we shouldn't think that we should support the lesser evil either. But the thing is, okay. I mean, what are your options?
Mm,
But obviously, we can see the bigger effects of things like stealing and all this stuff. Like what kind of problems and chaos that leads to. I mean, of course, these people who are hungry for money and stuff. I mean, obviously, they take some and they don't get satisfied, then they take more. But you can see that there's no end to that. Someone who wants to steal money, or take money illicitly, who doesn't, it's not gonna get satisfied at any point. But the thing is, with someone who believes in God, he will be happy and content with what God provides for him. Whether it's large or small. I mean, that's what people should chase, not money, right? Just money.
okay.
I mean, they should chase.
Yeah.
I mean, they can go earn money, but obviously, they should try to earn money legally and rightfully with their priorities in place, right? I mean, we go to work because we want to strive in the cause of God, not because we want to fill our bellies and our bank accounts with like hoard money. We want to spend in the cause of God. We want to be charitable. Do righteous works. I mean, that should be people's motivation in life. Anybody to work in this world. Not for us so we can be rich and we can just take care of our own self and um, just disregard everything else, right?
Mashallah, right. But and that's in the Quran too, The
Hmm.
Quran says that, it talks about how the rich believer is better than the poor believer,
Hmm.
because of that, because they could strive more with the
Hmm.
cause of God. And we know that
Hmm.
how God's system works is with ranks, And if you think like there's ranks in this world, like these
Hmm.
ranks, like the ranks with God is even like I mean,
Hmm.
you can't even compare, or wrap
Hmm.
your head around it. But I mean, God tells us these things in the Quran for a reason.
Hmm. All right. Um, so, I mean, are there any questions or comments? Any off-topic questions or comments? All right. So I guess if there are no comments or questions, God willing, we can conclude the study. So thank you, Huda, for inshallah leading the Quran study, and thank you all for joining us. And God willing, our next English Quran study would be on Saturday at 9:30 a.m. Pacific time. God bless you all. Assalamu alaikum.
God bless you. Assalamu alaikum.